Well, the country pauses to reflect on the Marikana tragedy every year, but for the victims' families, every day is a painful reminder of the massacre. Let's reflect on that now. Our reporter Michael Marilia joins us at the touchscreen. I mean, Mike, this is such an important anniversary for us as a country, but, you know, it's easy to forget that this is the reality of what happened in Marikana that these people have to deal with every day.
Yeah, that's right, Michelle, and we did a little calculation. It's been roughly 2,500 days since that particular massacre, and every sunset, every sunrise, they will have to remember the Marikana massacre and the impact that it's had on their lives. We're going to go very quickly through some of the cases which are now in court or going to be in court connected to the Marikana massacre and the events around it, Michelle. This is a central figure in all of this. This is Major General William Mpemba. He was the Northwest Deputy Police Commissioner at the time. He was in court earlier this week along with several other police ministers, facing a range of charges, including defeating the ends of justice. That charge is linked to the death of a minor. There have been suggestions that the officers tried to hide the actual circumstances around his death. There is evidence suggesting, in fact, that he died in police custody. Then he is also due to face charges linked to a second case. That case will be heard in April 2020, Michelle. Again, he's charged alongside several other officers. This is linked to his behavior around the deaths of several people in the build-up to the massacre on the 16th. You'll remember 10 other people also died in the days before the massacre on the 16th of August. As we mentioned, it's been a long wait for justice. When we get to that court hearing in April 2020, the victims' families will have waited nearly 2,800 days for some kind of answers when it comes to the deaths of their loved ones. And looking at the other side of the coin, Michelle, several mine workers are also facing charges. They're due in court within the next 2 months or so. Around about 17 mine workers who are facing charges linked to the deaths of those 10 people in the build-up to the massacre on the 16th. Important to note here, Michelle, that there have been no charges and no convictions so far when it comes to the killing of 17 mine workers at Scene 1 on the 16th of August and another 17 at Scene 2 that same day. Most of the charges that have been laid have been linked to the events leading up to the 16th. We have asked several experts during the course of the morning, Michelle, what they think about the legal process and how our justice system has handled it. Many of them saying that it is simply taking too long. Let's listen in to Mia Swart from the Wits Law School.
We know that this ultimately always boils down to political will. There was a will to set up a commission to make it look like we're doing something. Now, we know the Farlam Commission was more respected than most, but in my view, it was far too soft on the police, and there wasn't really any oversight over, what happens after the commission makes its conclusions. I think that it's a lack of political will, and also that some people implicated were, of course, incredibly senior. We're talking about Cyril Ramaphosa himself, right? So even though he said at the State of the Nation address last year that this will enjoy priority, that Marikana, it was our darkest hour, we're still not seeing the criminal prosecutions we need to see.
And Michelle, speaking of Cyril Ramaphosa, the president tweeting a little earlier today saying the Marikana tragedy stands out as the darkest moment in the life of our young democracy. Never again can we allow such a tragedy to befall our nation. Of course, Ramaphosa also an important figure in all of this. He was a non-executive director at Lonmin in 2012. The Farlam Commission saying that no action should be taken against him. Nathi Mthethwa was the police minister. There were questions about some of the decisions that he may have been involved in. No action against him. And Susan Shabangu, the mining minister at the time. There were suggestions that she was under pressure from Ramaphosa to take certain action. Again, no action was taken. Ria Piekga, of course, was the big name that fell in the wake of the Marikana massacre. She was suspended before the Claassen inquiry ruled that she was unfit for office. Michelle?
Yeah, it's very interesting, Mike. We actually just spoke to the Socio-Economic Rights Institute just a little earlier, and you talk about the president, you talk about Cyril Ramaphosa, and that institute telling us that every year the people of Marikana ask when the president, when the police minister will make good on that promise of them coming to Marikana and actually apologizing. Thanks very much for that, Michael Marilia, as always, giving us some fresh perspective on this incredibly painful story.